All right, we're continuing our discussion of the 118th Congress that is absent a speaker. For the first time in 100 years, the House has not been able to agree on a speaker. We were just discussing this with Congressman Matt Rosendale. Again, I'm not troubled by this. All right, I know a lot of people are, wringing their hands. They're, railing against the conservatives. They're railing against Kevin McCarthy. I think this is healthy. I mean, we used to have debate in this country over issues of importance. And we used to do that on cable TV, but they don't do that anymore. The left wants to shut people down. I don't think we should be a part of wanting to silence people. Now, we may not agree with them. I don't agree with everything that comes out of Congress. In fact, there's a lot I don't agree with. But I think it's healthy to have these discussions. And I think it's healthy to use the process and not have some predetermined outcome when it comes to the leadership. And I've talked to a number of members who are relatively new who said, there's this pecking order, and that's not right. It ought to be based upon who is getting things done and who is willing to lead effectively. And I agree. And that's what frustrates a lot of the members. They come here to represent their constituents, and they find that they can't. It's been since 2016 since they've been able to offer amendments to legislation on the floor. They get jammed at the last minute with thousands of pages of legislation to read, and they have no voice in the matter. Well, joining me now to talk about how this may work its way out is Jody Hice, former congressman from Georgia, now senior advisor to the president here at the Family Research Council. He served for 4 terms in Congress representing the 10th Congressional District of Georgia. Jody, welcome back to the program.
Oh, it's great to be back with you, Tony. Thanks for having me.
All right, your thoughts on what we've watched today?
Well, it's just as you said, this is not an hour of panic. This is the process at work, and we need to all sit back. I would encourage people to do 2 things. Number 1, don't panic. This is the process. It's a debate. It may be messy, yes. It may look ugly, yes, but it is the process that we have to determine who the next Speaker of the House is going to be. So let that process take its course. The second thing I would encourage people to do is to pray. Listen, there is intense pressure on our members of Congress right now from every district in the country. They are hearing from constituents, and this is a time that we need to be praying for them. They need support. They need to be able to work through this process. And so I encourage people to do both of these things. Right now, be calm, don't panic, just pray, and let's work through this process.
We had Matt Rosendale on, former colleague of yours with the House Freedom Caucus, and it sounds like to me from his comments that no matter what Kevin McCarthy may offer at this point in terms of negotiations as it pertains to the rules, that he's unacceptable to some of them. Is there a way forward for Kevin McCarthy at this point?
Theoretically, there is a way. Practically speaking, I see no avenue. I see no pathway for Kevin at this point. I mean, we've been through 6 votes. He has not picked up a single vote out of 6 tries. Fatigue is beginning to set in. I'm even hearing from people who have supported Kevin in these votes, these 6 votes, who are now saying, enough is enough. Kevin needs to understand that he's simply not going to get there. We need to move forward. So in a real practical way, Tony, I see this increasingly becoming less and less likely that Kevin McCarthy has a pathway to the speakership at this point.
There have been threats to kind of coalesce with Democrats to elect a moderate left of center Republican as Speaker. Any Republican, I think, that would go down that path would be a political liability for them, I would think.
It most certainly would be a political liability, and I believe these are the type of games that are played in Washington to try to create an atmosphere of fear, of intimidation, and try to coerce individuals to go ahead and vote, in this case, for Kevin, when just by putting out that type of language that the Democrats are going to help us elect a speaker if we're not careful. And listen, that would be detrimental for a Democrat to vote for a Republican speaker, just as much as it would be for a Republican to vote for a Democratic speaker.
Right.
I just feel like those are all, it's fear mongering, it's political tactics and gamemanship. It's not reality. At the end of the day, Kevin is, or whoever is going to have to get 218 votes from the Republican side to become speaker. That's where the battleground is. And that's where a candidate is going to need to rise forth that is able to garnish that type of support.
Yeah, agreed. It's just a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to some of those tactics they say could play out. So who might be, we got 2 minutes left, who might be in the conference that members would turn to as an alternative?
You know, Tony, I'm afraid that if I start listing names, immediately may poison the water, so I'm not going to throw out names. But I will say this, there are legitimately a number of individuals who I believe could gather the support of 218 members of the Republican conference. And it's what it's going to require is an individual who is liked, obviously, an individual who is trusted, but also an individual who will be committed to reestablishing regular order in the House of Representatives and enabling, empowering the members of Congress to do their job as is designed for them to do in representing their various districts, allowing them to provide amendments on the floor, allowing them to engage the process. And any individual who comes to the floor with those type of offers, I believe, is going to gather the support needed to become the next speaker.
All right, music is in my ear, means we're out of time. But I will have to say this, Jody, you handled that question like a seasoned politician. You handled that quite well. A diplomat, I should say, a diplomat. Jody Hice, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining me today.